runoff, we'll, go down the list like you usually do, Kevin, and point out any anything sort of other than contractual.
Yep. Did everyone meet Liz yet?
No, I think just Evan.
Just Evan. Dawn, Liz Rourke, the new town accountant.
Oh, Liz, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And Christian, new town accountant, is here in the office.
Hi, Christian.
Liz
Nice to
comes
meet
with
you.
a great resume, spent a long time in North Reading, Hopkinton, Concord. We are thrilled to have snatched her from those other communities, and you live in Reading, right?
North Reading.
North Reading. I've known her for a long time, or met her many years ago, and was very impressed and continue to be, and she's going to be a great member of the team going forward. So this is really part of our overall succession plan, and so this is her first meeting. She just started Monday, so come in with a nice friendly group.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That much is true.
So Kevin's going to have a bunch of our budgets he will go over with you. Want to state for the record, our philosophy has been, I think as long as both of us have been here, that, fund your contractual obligations. Everything else should be at most level funded, unless you come to us. We do look at a lot of trends, as this group knows. And we've actually made some adjustments in some of the budgets here. I'm happy to state that the 22 budgets that we're presenting, which are almost all of the town hall budgets, are coming in at an increase over last year of 0.92% total.
Good job.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
I-
that's good.
I was thrilled.
How do I follow up that? So,
That's right.
Kevin's going to go through each one.
so what I'll do is, as usual, go down the list, go over any points that I think are noteworthy to mention. If there's anything that I miss, or if you have questions at the end of each budget, I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Are you going to go down the list as it sits on Govenda? So it starts with number 10, is that right?
I am starting with the treasurer's budget.
Oh, okay.
Does it sit
So-
differently on Govenda?
It says 22 agenda items, and then they're kind of all over the place, so I don't know what order they're in.
Oh, I know, because
Is it different
it's different, yeah.
from the agenda?
From the agenda. So why don't you tell us what you have, Dawn, and we'll switch around. It'll be easier for you guys.
That's okay. It's easy enough to navigate. So
Okay.
Kevin, you
Okay.
just go in the order that you were planning to.
Okay, I'm gonna go right down the agenda that we have. The first budget is the treasurer's budget. We're recommending an increase of this budget of $10,679. Under personal services, the increase is $8,679, includes a 3% increase for the town treasurer, and then contractual and negotiated increases for the clerical union, which is usually a COLA and step increases. We have one small increase on the expense side under printing and binding. We use that for advertising. By law, we need to advertise tailings twice a year. We've been doing it once, so we needed to bump that up a couple $1,000s. Major expenses within this budget, $13,000 for tax title, which is for attorney's fees and land court costs. That usually happens towards the end of the fiscal year. And then we also have bank charges at $7,500. And this is to maintain the town's bank accounts and the cost of any checks if needed. Wanted to point out that we do collect revenue in this department for tax title. Year to date, we've collected over $104,000. Last year, it was about $185,000. And we may be getting one substantial one in, but to be determined.
Right.
Total budget request is $255,406. Any questions?
I'm good. Good, Don?
Yes.
All right, carry on.
Next budget is the legal budget. Looking to decrease this budget $1,052 over the current fiscal year. There is an increase in personal services, 3% increase for the town council. We also decreased the professional services line item, $10,000, based on usage. You can see the past couple fiscal years have been pretty good, 15,000, 22,000. So dropping that down to 50,000 should be well, unless something drastic comes up, and at that point, we'll probably need to do a reserve fund transfer anyway, so 50,000 should be sufficient.
Okay, that's 28,000 more than we've spent in the past. So, is that what could possibly be that 28,000 used for?
If any suit comes against the town, or we need to hire a legal expert, that it would come
Okay.
out of this line item, and they aren't cheap, so.
If we had like an environmental suit, we would probably hire an environmental expert or something like
Okay.
that, so, which we've done in the past.
Yeah, it was just a couple years ago. You had-
Yeah.
you had a reserve fund transfer,
Exactly,
right?
for that.
It might not have been in that line, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So we decreased that line item. We increased the books and publications, $5,000, based on current year expenses and prior year expenses that we've had to do reserve fund transfers the past couple of years, so wanted to bump that up a little bit. But overall, the budget, we are asking for a decrease of $1,052. The total budget request is $205,100.
Carry on.
Next budget is the tax collector's budget. On this budget, we're looking for an increase of $10,473. This increase breaks down $5,240 to the tax levy and $5,233 to a water and sewer transfer. We did increase personal services, $3,570, which is for contractual negotiated increases. We have settled a clerical contract. Under contractual services, small increase, $1,650. We increased advertising, $1,150. There was a change in the tax title law. We have to now advertise, when we do advertise, it has to be done in 8 languages. Also a small increase of $500 in postage. Main expenses in this budget, $6420 under printing and binding, which is for the preliminary and actual tax bills. $4,850 in professional services, which is for instruments of taking during the tax title process. And the postage line item, $37,000 to use to mail out the tax bills, which includes personal property, real estate, motor vehicle excise. In total, we probably mail out about 67,000 bills a year. Total budget request is $328,107, with $260,502 coming from the tax levy and $67,605 coming from a water and sewer transfer.
The statute requires you to physically mail, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's still a good chunk of the population that prefers that or
And, you know,
might only use that.
if people can go on the online service under the town's website and look and print, look at their tax bills, and I believe they can print right off that also.
Okay.
So.
But we are required to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
So-
Going. This is
So if
Christian. I
you
didn't see your
double-
face, I don't think. How's it going? Nice to meet you.
How's
it going?
How are you?
So Kevin, if you double the postage, we're over budget based on year to date, right?
Right.
So-
Yes, but that includes, I believe, both preliminary and actual tax bills. The last big mailing we have is the excise, which will be probably coming out in February. So
Okay.
it'll be close.
Yeah.
But you can see last year it was almost 37,000. So
Yep.
I
Okay.
anticipate we should get enough to finish out this year and next year too. And if we had to do a reserve fund transfer, it would be small amounts. It'd be a
Yep.
couple $1,000 tops.
Okay.
Onward.
Next budget is the assessors budget. The increase is $6,385 over the current fiscal year. This is all in personal services, which is contractual and negotiated increases for all personnel. Linfield did agree to bump up their share of their reimbursement for Victor's services by $5,000 a year. Main expenses within this budget, the professional services line item, $21,600, which is used mainly for outside appraisal services and expert witnesses as needed for ATB cases. Total budget request is $271,657.
How's that going in general, Steve? Like operationally,
It's,
the IMA with Linfield?
it's Linfield and Reading.
Yeah.
So it's going very well. The reason why I called my good friend Rob Dolan at Reading and said, we have a normal split with you, but I want to increase it by 5,000 because they have three tax classifications. They have residential, commercial, as we do and as Reading does. They also have a water district, which is a completely different assessment. And although they were, handling it another way, that was taking a little bit more of Victor's time. So I said, I want to get paid for that. So we bumped it up a little bit and everyone's happy. It's a great move and, we would be paying way more.
Yeah.
We probably pay 50, 60 grand more a year in personnel costs if we didn't have this really good agreement with the two communities. It's worked out very well.
Yeah.
Can't always say that in this case.
Yes, yep. Anything from Christian or Don?
Good there.
So actually, I have a question back on the tax collector department, just really quickly, just out of curiosity. So the salary for elected tax collector, is that based on years of service or is that based on the position? So
A 3% increase?
not
The
the,
three-
well, the actual salary where they fall in the step grade process?
They were following
Yeah,
a supervisory.
It follows a supervisor union.
Yes.
So, and that's based on years of service in the position?
Well,
So-
yeah, because you're moving along the tracks like others are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once that track ends, we did the 3%.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at a COLA in that budget, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
On hers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's at the end of the level of that supervisor scale.
Right. Okay.
Now, that contract is up fiscal year 27, so there might be an adjustment there at that point.
Sorry to go back. Thanks.
Oh, no, it's all right.
No problem.
Anytime, Don.
That's why we do it.
Next budget,
Sure.
town clerk's budget. Recommending an increase of $5,782 over the current fiscal year. Under personal services, there was an increase of $8,282, which is for contractual and negotiated increases. The clerical union has settled. On the expense side of the budget, we decreased printing and binding $1,000 and postage by $1,500. Last year, we did bump it up because it was a presidential election year. Next year's not, so those line items should come down a little bit, so we're able to reduce that a little bit. Total budget request for the town clerk for fiscal 26 is $270,262. Do want to point out, we do collect money over the counter downstairs, approximately $70,000 a year in various license and fees.
We have a step increase there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out, for both the town clerk and the election budget, which is next, the salaries are a little high through half the year. And that was mainly due to the presidential election. So we may be coming to look for a reserve fund transfer to cover that at the end of the fiscal year. But I do want to point out that we have requested from the state for the extended polling hours that we were open for downstairs, that we do get reimbursed. I think Betsy told me it was about $15,000. That money will come into revenue, but the appropriation would have to be covered through a reserve fund transfer.
Nope.
So, but it's probably going to be a net wash.
Right. And that request to the state in quotation marks is because it's an unfunded mandate.
Mhm.
And the auditor has already, or previous auditor already ruled on that. So
Yep.
we have been reimbursed in the past.
Next budget is the election and registration budget. Recommending that this budget be decreased $3,500 over the current fiscal year. Same thing, presidential election, we bumped it up a little bit this current year. Next year, no presidential election, so we're looking to decrease postage, $3,000, decrease street list, $500. Main expenses here are personal services, $17,100, which is mainly the census workers. Under professional services, under contractual services, $12,000. We usually contract with a company called LHS, which helps us with the mailing of the census, the printing of the ballots, and the maintenance on our voting machines. So they're like covers everything for that department. And then under postage, there's $6,000, which is mainly used for absentee ballots. The total budget request for fiscal 26 is $38,800.
You want to just tie that in with an election expense too?
Election expense,
I know they're different budgets, but.
yeah, different budgets. We're looking to decrease this budget. $26,450 over the current fiscal year. Basically, this year, the current year, we had 3 elections. Next year, we have 1. And so it's basically about $13,000 to $15,000 in an election. So 2 less elections, we're able to cut this budget. Total budget request is $13,900.
And those are scheduled elections. Those are what we know.
Sure.
So if we had to have a special election, we'd go for a reserve fund or fund it at a subsequent town meeting.
Next budget is the finance committee budget. We're looking to level fund. I did move some money around. We did increase office supplies $100. We decreased the recommendation book line item $500. We're able to control those costs because that's done in-house by Sherry. We increased the dues and subscriptions $400, which is the finance committee's portion of being members for the MMA and also the Association of Town Finance Committees. Total budget request is $7,060.
Conservation?
Conservation budget, we're recommending this budget be increased $2,300. There's an increase in personal services, $2,300. That increase of $2,300 is for a 3% increase for 1 full-time and 1 part-time agent. The full-time agent works 30 hours a week. The part-time agent works 5 hours a week. We do also offset this budget through available funds, which are the wetland filing fees, which will be level at $4,500. We've done that for the past couple of years. Total budget request for fiscal 26 is $87,468, with $82,968 coming from tax levy and $4,500 from available funds.
How did that story conclude, Steve? I remember we talked last year about how the FTE count on the conservation agent. There was like talk about maybe 2 part-timers and I forget how that all played out, but.
It was overridden at town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
So they-
this is a reflection of the vote at town meeting.
okay.
The one I've lost.
What?
No, I've lost others.
Next budget is the planning board budget. We're requesting level funding. Main cost within this budget, cost of the clerk, $4,800. 2 meetings a month at $200 a meeting. Advertising, $3,000, which is used for meetings and bylaw changes. We do collect some revenue within this department. Year to date, we've collected $7,300. 2 prior years before that, around $4,500 a year. The total budget request for fiscal 26 is $10,775. Next
So-
budget is,
So
I'm sorry.
not financially related, but Steve, we dodged a bullet, right? The court ruling came in
Yeah,
today.
the court ruling came out today and the great takeaways is number one is that 40A is a legal law, is legal. That the AG does have the right to enforce it and to take any steps that the AG feels is necessary, like any law that's passed. The only, bless you, speed bump in the road, and it's not a barrier, is that the Executive Office of Living and Family Communities used to be it used to be Executive Office of Housing, whatever it was. They did not technically properly post their regulations. So they will redo that and that'll all get done. So I think we're actually ahead of the head of the curve a little bit right now. We did everything we would have had to have done anyway, in my opinion. So
Yep.
Glad it's done, glad it's behind us, and we'll take it from there.
All set?
Thank you. Thank you. That just came out today, which was interesting, I thought.
Next budget is the Board of Appeals budget, looking to increase this budget $700 over the current fiscal year. Main expenses within this budget is pretty much the total cost of this budget is the cost for the hearings. These averages that advertising, it costs about $150 a hearing. The clerk is a weekly stipend of $350 a week. The board members do get paid a fee. The chairman gets $20 a hearing. Board members get $10 a hearing. There is postage also included in there. We do average out approximately 50 hearings a year. Historically, this budget does pay for itself. But the numbers do fluctuate because the timing of when the projects come online or when they do file. Fiscal 21, we collected $66,000. In 22, 18,000. In fiscal 23, we were back up to 35,000. 24 is 20,000. So far, year to date, it's at 7,200. But the total budget request for fiscal 26 is $31,000.
Kevin, are those the list of fees that are,
This is an average of what the costs are per hearing. And then we average 50 hearings a year. So when you add up those individual costs on page 2 of the budget, it
That's what I'm
breaks
looking at.
out the cost and how much per hearing. So like a total hearing will cost about, on average, $614. And if we take that, divide it by 50, you multiply it by 50 hearings that we average, that'll bring us up to $30,700, and then $300 for office supplies.
but at the bottom of page 2 there, are those the fees that are charged for the
Yes,
hearing?
that's
Yes.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who sets the fees?
Actually, they were set by town meeting years ago.
And it probably could use.
I wanted to bring actually a few years ago, a lot of fees forward for increases. That may come back at this town meeting because we're behind the times on it. But that's a town
Okay.
meeting vote.
Next budget is the fire alarm budget. This was one budget. I work with Randy Hudson. He's a captain?
Captain, yep.
At the fire department. Randy handles the fire alarm. He heads that up. With the amount of construction, building, new traffic lights going in, aging traffic lights, this was one area that we did put some extra money next fiscal year. Where you got an aging infrastructure, the maintenance and the upkeep. If you look at, the amount of time he's spending so far through half the year, if you double it, the increase is warranted. The materials and supplies, if you look at that line item this year, we've already overspent the budget. We have a line item at $20,000 We've expended 31,000 to date. We did have one big expend in there. The controller at North Ave had to be replaced. It cost $24,000. It's gonna be, that's a one-time expense. That's not gonna happen every year, but it's one of those, everything is aging, so to get that stuff fixed, have it working properly, we do have to need to fund this budget a little bit more. That's why we did increase this budget over the current fiscal year by $5,489. This department is responsible for the townwide fire alarm system, the town's traffic signals, and also the dispatch equipment at both fire stations. We do collect some revenue for master boxes at private businesses. We charge a fee of $225 per year. There's approximately 170 boxes, so we collect about $35,000 annually to help offset this budget. Total budget request for fiscal '26 is $78,000.
Any questions?
Just maybe a comment. Is any of like the North Ave situation, would that be related to the train? And all of the mess that goes on there? And would there be any
Yeah,
potential of
the train,
A
they're
kickback
coming
from-
out and doing, well, we don't use that word, but
kickback?
yes.
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, they manage a lot of that directly.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, we also have instances where people will unfortunately hit, and that happens. And as tragic as that is, we do put claims in for them, just coming in through a different source.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that
Yeah.
could be offset
North Ave
by-
should be, we did some rejiggering with the, have you noticed anything better
sometimes.
lately? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it goes down all the time.
Yeah.
I know it's.
Well, I was curious if it was related to the signal.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, that we can't change anything there on any train track
Yeah.
without going.
Yeah, that's federal,
MBTA being
right?
part of
Yeah.
the equation. Yeah.
I'm just curious, Kevin, on compensation here, is it covered at all in the IAFF CBA? He's an active fire captain, right?
He's an
Right.
active fire captain, but
Right.
this is not,
It's a different rate.
it's different rate.
He doesn't get his firefighters rate.
Yeah.
When
Well, I
he,
see, yeah, but so is it governed at all by the CBA or?
No,
Okay,
no.
it's totally separate.
so he's just sort of.
And that's not just
special
him, by the
employee,
way.
a special municipal
Yeah,
employee.
that's just not him either on that. That could be other
Okay.
people. Yeah.
Okay, I got you,
Yeah,
I got you, I got you.
Great gig though.
Huh?
Great gig.
Sure, I'm not sure I could do it, but yeah.
Actually, both ways too, though.
Yeah.
It's good for the town if we.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fabulous. for the town. Yeah.
So, next budget is the emergency management budget, requesting an increase in this budget of $1,777 over the current fiscal year. This increase is all in personal services and is for a 3% increase for the emergency management director, 3% increase, yes. Main expenses here, under contractual services, there's a $10,000 line item for the Emergency Operations Center, which is at the Public Safety Building, and this is used to service, upgrade, and maintain the equipment in the control center. We also have a $16,000 line item for the emergency notification system, the reverse 911 or the code red. If there's an emergency, people will get a phone call notifying them. Total budget request for fiscal '26 is $94,030.
I'll ask, is the director full-time?
No,
What's he have?
it should be
19 and a half.
19 and a half.
Is that just him in the?
Yeah, just him. Yeah. 19 and a half. That he's on the books for. He's here a lot more than that.
Yeah, I know why you're saying that, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing we,
During COVID though, right?
Oh, all the time. He's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
you
No,
know,
I
he-
just remember
he
discussing it
helps,
pretty
yeah.
extensively
Yeah.
during COVID.
one of the great things with Tom Walsh, the emergency management director, he does bring in quite a few grants
Yeah,
that well above
yeah, no. it's
what you
great.
see in there, that
Yeah,
every year he's got probably 4 or 5 grants coming in
Yeah.
for public safety related issues.
right.
Is is that position benefits eligible or is it just? below?
No, it's not. That's why it's 19 and a half hours a week.
Okay.
All set. Next budget, Inspectional Services Department, recommending that this budget be increased $18,385. This is all in personal services and is for contractual and negotiated increases. Want to point out that this has been our cash cow for the past several years. Fiscal 23, 1.3 million collected in building fees. Fiscal 24, over $2 million. Couple big projects, the head of the lake being one of them, was included in that $2 million line. Year to date, 488,000. So it looks like, it'll be another good year. Not as good, maybe not as good as last year, where we got the head of the lake. Those come around very infrequent, but
Did you get that projection, that revenue, did you include that fee in your revenue projections with DOR?
not that,
No, no,
not that big amount. I
Head of the lake, no?
no,
no.
no. We look at
They
that as
don't
a
usually let you
one-time.
get away with that anyway.
No,
You
no.
gotta kind of fight with them.
Yeah, so you always have very conservative with, I think I used is either, I think it was about 700,000 for building permits. And right now we're at 488, so we should be well past that at the end of the fiscal year, but I want you to be conservative, so
Yep, yeah,
we usually are.
Yep.
Total budget request for next year for the inspectional services, $506,867.
Kevin, what do we have for revenue on Dan's sheet for that? Do you?
$10 million. I think Dan carries a little bit higher number than we do in total, but not so much, I think, on that one. I think he might be a little bit higher than us.
Does he break it down individually?
No.
And or does he, like a lot of times he'll take, well, how much did you collect last year? And
Right, and then just
He's looking at
increase
it
it.
more like macro. trend.
Yeah.
Right,
But also, he's not bound by the constraints of DOR.
right,
In
right,
terms of like,
Yeah.
right. You
In
have
terms of
to,
actually projecting, like, you could have guessed pretty easily they were gonna pull that big
Oh,
building
sure.
permit this year,
Right.
but DOR wouldn't let you count on it.
Right,
exactly.
So,
it's only, they'll let you count it if it happened before you set the tax
Yeah,
rate. So,
yeah.
but if you, yeah.
Yeah.
If you tell them
Yeah.
the check's in the mail, then it's not gonna happen.
Do you deal with Bobby Joe up there? Is she
No.
still there?
Is she there?
She is?
Mhm.
She was really solid, really good.
Next budget is the Council on Aging budget. Recommending that this budget be increased $8,228 over the current fiscal year. This is all in personal services and is for contractual and negotiated increases. We did move some expense money around. We reduced the oil and additives by $2,300. Increased motor vehicle parts, $1,450, and the tire line item by $850. I think it's more right sizing those. Maybe in the past that, a couple tires maybe got charged to the oil and
Yeah.
additives line item, but the expense side is level funded. For the oil and gas, we average about between $400 and $450 a month for the senior center vans. Total budget request for fiscal 26 is $298,626.
And for the senior van drivers, although occasionally Karen Burke, the director, will jump in if there's a breach, they're mainly retired firefighters, which works out really good. They're paid hourly. They know a lot of the citizens. They know all the roads.
Yeah.
They know how to, they're all trained medically if anything happens, and that's really a big success.
What do we have, 2 vans now?
2 vans, yeah. It's a real big success story that's been going on for a while.
That's really nice.
Next budget is the recreation budget, requesting an increase of $5,322 over the current fiscal year. This is all in personal services and is for contractual and negotiated increases. This budget is covered by fees generated by the recreation programs and activities account. So the fees are collected in the revolving account. They're taken from the revolving account, put into the town's general revenue account at the end of the fiscal year to cover this budget. So there's really, we do appropriate it, but it is covered by
Yeah.
the fees that are generated. So there's really no cost. And the programs are extraordinary from what I hear.
Yep.
Right now, for fiscal 24, we collected about $640,000 in fees. Spent about 640. So right now, our current balance in the revolving account is about $100,000. Total budget request for fiscal 26 is $136,136. Dan is also being the recreation director. He is also in charge of Civic Center
Civic Center and the Albion Cultural Exchange.
on Albion Street, yes. Next budget is the streetlight budget. We're looking to decrease this budget by $10,000. 7 years ago, the light department received a state grant. And they replaced all the town streetlights with LED streetlights. And with that changeover, there were savings in electricity. And originally, we were able to reduce this budget from $213,000 down to $188,000 a year. Next year, in fiscal 27, it's going to go down another $25,000 to $35,000 because all the capital costs will be paid off. For fiscal 26, we asked the light department if we could receive some of those savings this year. So we were able to, they agreed, and we were able to reduce this by $10,000. Historical Commission's budget?
The full year expenses are booked already for
Yes,
25?
it's a one-time expense.
One-time
We
expense.
cut a check for them.
Okay.
Usually in November, beginning of December, we pay for the full year.
Okay.
Next budget, the Historical Commission's budget is level funding. Total budget request is $2,000. Next budget, the unemployment budget, we're looking to level fund. This budget is $75,000. We split it into two line items, $25,000 for the town, $50,000 for the schools. That's always been approximately the split in payroll, 1/3, 2/3. That if this budget does go over the 75,000, it's more than likely it's because of the schools, and the school will pick up anything over 75,000. But this budget goes over, it's charged back to them directly. It'll come out of there. 75,000, it's a good number. Last budget, I'm sorry.
So the
Next
schools are
budget.
self-insured also, right? So
Yeah.
and are they aggressive or do we have a firm that handles the
Firm
claims?
handles both sides,
Both sides?
Townwide.
townwide and them, yeah.
Okay.
Next budget is the reserve fund budget, requesting level funding. This budget is for unforeseen, unbudgeted or under budgeted expenses and emergencies. The budget request is $400,000. We haven't used any so far this year. There are several items that I do want to mention. And we are working on them to try to keep them under control or even lessen what reserve funds we will need at the end of the year. First one being the town clerk because of the presidential election. The fire alarm expense for that, the break over here on North Ave. The workers' comp and the general insurance budgets. That was due to the rail to trail.
Yeah,
The MBTA rider we had to put in.
which is a one-time fee.
One-time fee, good for 5 years, was it? And with that, we're working with the numbers, so we don't want to come in and ask for 15,000, 20,000 now, where by the end of the year, maybe we can get money from another spot to cover some of it. So we usually wait till the end of the year to do that.
And was it last year that we increased it from 3 to 4?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Okay.
That's actually something that should be on the, I think on the horizon in the next few years to increase it. Again, probably not this coming fiscal year, but I could see 27, 28. Kevin's shaking his head, but I'm thinking that as a percentage of our budgets, we might.
And the last budget is the professional medical budget. We're requesting level funding. This budget is used mainly for new hires, physicals. So we do pre-employment physicals. Police and fire physicals are a little bit more expensive. They can run up to $1,500 at each. This also covers the mandatory Department of Transportation physicals for employees with CDL licenses or any return to work physicals that are needed. Total budget request is $15,300, with $11,500 coming from the tax levy, $1,900 from the water enterprise, and $1,900 from the sewer enterprise.
Do we have hiring in the pipeline or are we pretty much stable?
Well, we are going to go through a number of retirements in police coming up.
Okay.
There are, we haven't done the police budget yet, but we may look to actually increase that personnel just because of the volume of calls and everything. Other departments, it's more about attrition and new hires there. But as far as new FTEs, no,
Okay.
other than probably police.
So with this group of budgets, really nothing shocking or out of the ordinary, that pretty straightforward.
I don't think it ever has been.
No, these budgets are good.
Great.
Um,
Good work.
Next steps is Monday night at the town council. We'll hear 11 of them. Are you able to go Monday night? Okay.
Yeah.
That 11 has a decrease of 0.16%, so that should be pretty, there should be one question. That should be it,
Yeah.
but we'll see. And then the finance committee will hear them all on Thursday night, the first 11, because Jim wanted it split, Jim Sullivan. But hopefully we just have a couple more that maybe we'll talk with this group about.
yeah, mine,
Accounting.
town council, animal
No,
control,
we do human resources with insurance,
Okay.
with medical insurance.
animal control, parking clerk.
Yeah, a
and-
couple of small ones.
Yeah.
We might have another meeting in this group, but
Yeah, and
We'll let you
what we'll do is we'll try to push those and do them all in one.
in mommy group, yeah.
So, and do those later.
So we thought, Kevin and I thought that these were pretty easy. We get you in just once, get you in and out.
Sounds good. It doesn't bother me either way.
So Steve, is it in our purview to recommend that the fees be reviewed or is that,
I would love it if the finance committee maybe sent that message back. Because I did look at them a few years ago, and there was no appetite. I do intend to bring that back to the town council, and maybe at that point, I'd love it if the finance committee says, hey, we're lagging behind that. That would be pretty good, particularly in
Yeah.
building, particularly in some other areas there,
Building Board of Appeals.
Board of Appeals. I mean, it's crazy to have and I really think that commercial versus residential, there should be a bigger disparity. I mean, the poor person that wants to put a deck on and needs a variance, and I feel for them, but for these big developments, no, let's increase those more.
When was the last time we did, or have we done a comprehensive fee review?
I'm gonna bet we did review, they were changed maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think we did a review 3 or 4 years ago, and it was like, had no support, so.
Yeah, well, it doesn't usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fees is a sort of kind of a bad word.
Right.
I'm okay with that, Dawn. I don't know if, maybe it's something we report back to Chairman Sullivan and say, maybe we should throw that on the agenda as a topic, not just for the ZBA, but, maybe
Yeah.
townwide, look at a fee assessment. I mean, I'm not personally all that interested in like paying a consultant 50 grand to do it, but,
No, I would.
something I think we
don't
can
wanna
do
that.
kind of
I don't wanna
ballpark
do that
in
either.
house. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it's, something that, we don't necessarily have to recommend increasing them, but I think we
No.
should look at, see how we compare to,
Yeah, I gotta jump
Take
out.
care. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if the
See you next
MMA has data on fees like that, or if there is a group that has something, but you
I
know.
mean, I think in each department, you know,
Yeah.
you call 5 or 10 different building departments in the area and say, what are your fees?
Send us a copy of your fees. and-
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be, if we're way out of whack, we'll see it, you know? I don't know if the that's a good question. I don't know if the MMA's done their own assessment statewide. Maybe they have.
Maybe they have.
We won't duplicate efforts then.
Yeah.
Good question.
I can check on that very easily.
Yep. Or if you have an intern that can make some phone calls.
Oh, that'd be good.
Good idea, Don. All right. Is that what we got?
That's what you got, kids.
Well done. Good work. Glad to. Don, good to see you remotely.
We'll see you. Yes. you.
And if we don't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
4:49.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Good job.
Thanks, Don.